everybody. Welcome to the new episode of I Am Right. I am Rocker Mike, and we got Rob Rossi, top right, Knowledge Allah, bottom left, and Eric Moore, bottom right. Eric, Knowledge.
Yo.
Welcome back.
Yes.
All right. So today we're going to have some interesting topics. We're going to talk a little bit about Doge, what's been going on with that. We're going to talk about the Ukraine issues that have been going on. But we need to do a little victory lap because our first episode of I Am Right, we talked about congestion pricing in New York City. And ironically, and kind of, I guess, prophetically, when the show was dropped, and downloaded, and we put it out, that was the day that Trump squashed the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we called it. I think we
told you.
We said it was going to happen.
It still hasn't stopped. They're still charging people. But
No, I know. Well, basically, it's in court right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The MTA immediately filed a lawsuit. Hochul, I think herself did it on behalf of New York State. Is that right, Eric? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the whole thing is stupid. They have no jurisdiction on this.
No, I mean, it's for the reasons we said. You were talking about the Commerce Clause in the Constitution and all that, and it's true. And this stuff will hold up. Trump squashing it will hold up in court. How it went down is basically the Biden administration back in November. Their DOT had to sign off on this. The reason being is because you're dealing with interstate commerce. The federal government has to say, okay, we have our blessing, and you can go ahead with it. Obviously, with a new administration, that could change, and it did. So the DOT said, no, it's not right. It's not constitutional. We're not permitting it. So that ended it right there. But Hochul had the right, to keep it going until it's in court. Okay?
Right.
Now, if she had any fucking brains whatsoever and was politically minded at all, and gave a shit about New York, because she would have shut off the cameras. Okay. But
now, if it's found to be unconstitutional, every New Yorker that paid can sue. Anybody from New Jersey can sue.
Dude, you know what's the funny thing? When she did that press conference in Grand Central, do you see the people clapping for this shit?
Yeah.
I'm like, who the fuck are these people?
They hire people for that.
But check this out. You're going to give the MTA $9. Within 2 years, they're going to say, we're still not making enough money. We need fucking $14 now. Dude, this shit is something that's like, some people like it for infrastructure, but how much money are they going to put in infrastructure? They say they're putting $15 billion to fix the Second Avenue train to go. You know what?
See, that's also another thing. You can't charge a toll on federal roads and use it for something else. It has to be used on federal roads.
Correct.
That's the main thing that the federal government said. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's always, a lot of people don't know, that's always been a problem with the FDR, because the city owns part of it, the state owns part of it. So every year, because I have a cousin who works for DOT, she told me this, and this is why every spring they always go back and forth with, oh, well, that's your side. You're supposed to fix that pothole. It's always a back and forth.
Oh, so they fight over who's responsible for the repairs.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay.
That's insane, man. You know what the problem is? No matter how much money you give the MTA, they're always going to want more. You know what if they really want to do, you know what? I still think the trains are cheap. You really want to fuck people, start charging zones. They can easily start charging zones. I'm surprised nobody ever thought of that, just like the Long Island Railroad. You want to go to Brooklyn, motherfucker, $5.
That's something that they could do if they were.
And you have to pay. You have to pay your fucking fare. You can't hop it.
But there's the thing here. Here's the thing. I have never heard of a company, a corporation company like the MTA, whatever you want to say, department, that in order to, is saying it doesn't make enough money, but in order to get that money, they now charge people that don't take that service.
Insane.
Understand what I'm saying? Okay, they charge the drivers on the road to pay for the MTA. All right, let the MTA figure it out for themselves. If they were smart, they know it's because of the fare beating. Okay, you get together with the police department and you crack down on that, and they'll generate a lot more revenue just with that. We talked about that.
But no, you got to build those little little shield things on the subway turnstiles. That'll stop them.
Oh yeah, yeah, right.
Now it's gonna be more like a fucking getting fucking smashed by a wall when one of these people throw you against the wall. That's what's gonna happen. You know what the problem is? Here's where the problem lies. You know where you get your retirement check.
Yeah.
The MTA still charge people for MTA taxes. Like a lot of people getting this MTA tax that they don't even know. Especially the people that live in Long Island and stuff, they gotta pay. And one guy said, "I'm retired. Y'all even used to MTA. Why are they charging me this?" It's a fucking. They got like a whole little weird kind of. They got their hands in everything.
When I was working,
Mike, there's all these people now. They've been double charged. There's a bunch of people and they get the money back, but there've been a bunch of people. If you look at your bill, they double charge you. They're only supposed to charge you once, and then there's people that don't even move the car to a park. That they've been charging them. They're not supposed to do that. It's the only way you move your car.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's a ripoff all around.
It's fucked up.
It is. When I retired in 2022, right? I worked in the city, lived in Queens all those years. I had a, obviously when I changed my address because I moved out to Long Island, I wasn't getting that MTA tax anymore. But when I was working in the city all those years, I looked at my paycheck every week. It was. Okay. Yeah. So, it's just like, what do they do with that money?
Yeah. They're like double dipping. Oh, for Eric.
Eric. Oh, we lost Eric. Hopefully.
They're like double dipping.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy. How do you double dip? They're getting money from everywhere, but they still don't have enough money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the MTA, the New York City Transit, also pays for Long Island Railroad and Metro North because those don't make any money.
Those make money.
No, they actually don't. They don't.
They don't.
Nah, they don't make money.
Right. So Metro North has never made money.
Yeah, no, Metro North Long Island don't make money. So transit pays for them too.
Long Island Railroad doesn't make money?
They don't make because for the amount of trains that they run and
they have to charge twice as much.
Yeah. Well,
something like that.
But they had zones,
Long Island Railroad definitely has zones.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And also the other one. What's the other
Long Island Railroad? Metro North? I don't know.
Metro North, they charge the MTA runs that too.
Yeah, no, but do they charge zones? I don't know.
Oh yeah, they do charge zone because I go to Terrytown to see Nicole, it's like $18 round trip. And if I go off peak, it's at 24, 25, it's a lot more.
No, but there's difference between on peak and off peak than going to different zones. I know.
Yeah. Oh no, but in zone, like if I went a little further, it would be $20 or $30.
Yeah.
It's like going to Long Island, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think they use zones too. Yeah. So anyway, with the congestion pricing, we're gonna have to follow that and see where that goes. I believe it'll stand in court that it was unconstitutional. Now, like Eric said, if it's found unconstitutional, obviously we should have the ability to sue. So I think that if they're smart, they're going to have to give that money back. They're going to have to credit people. They knew who they took it from, so they could just put it right back on their Easy Pass. Or if you don't have Easy Pass, you cut them a check or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because that's a whole other chapter we're going to have to look at when that goes on. So all right, so. The other big thing we wanted to get into, it's been going on obviously since Trump came back in January, is Doge, Department of Governmental Efficiency.
Yeah.
Now, Trump promised he was going to start this department to look for government waste, and fraud, and he put Elon Musk in charge of it.
Yeah.
Now, Eric, I'll ask you first. Musk is not a cabinet position. It's not an appointed position as far as approved as far as the Senate, like a cabinet position.
Right.
Okay. But he has the right to appoint a person like Musk, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, you look back at like Fauci. Fauci is basically Musk. He's not elected. He's not put by Congress, but the president gave him that authority. Same thing with special counsel Jack Smith. And everybody says, oh, Jack Smith, yeah, we could do that. Well, if you can do that, then you can do Musk.
Well, it's typical. What's good for them is not good for us. Okay, if a Republican, or let's just say Trump in this situation, tries to do something that the Democrats have been doing for years, they say, "Oh, you can't do that." All right. Now, in the past, I think this kind of thing used to get traction, but I'm not seeing that here. People are screaming to the sky all they want about Musk, but I mean, I believe did the Supreme Court weigh in on this? There was something like.
No, not yet. They haven't. Technically, this was an executive order. The only problem is with the Doge, they actually got rid of some people they really needed. And now
I heard there was like the guys that watched the
nukes and some of the airline control. We might need that. You know what? This was a very, they were just thinking, oh, why much? So now they try and hire these people back, and these people now, I'm a consultant. If you want me back, you got to really pay me. So you're kind of the double-edged sword, because I wonder if they fired me. I was the guy watching the nukes. Oh, you would pay $250,000? What a meal.
Yeah.
It's like, it's that.
Well, you know what?
I think
he's going to pay.
Yeah, right. I think that, as many times as that might happen, where they get rid of somebody that they shouldn't, and I don't think it's going to happen all that much. I think it's a drop in the bucket compared to what they're saving. Yeah. All right. Yeah. If you look at this stuff, I mean,
they got people that were put in office by presidents that are no longer around, and they were there for 40 years. What are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, what about the Social Security thing? Now, I can't believe that they've got people that are 150 years old on the rolls
collecting a check.
Are they? That's the thing. We don't know. The checks must be going out. Obviously, they're seeing this, but is anybody cashing them?
Well, people say, "Oh, it's not really checks going out. It's not really this. There's not really those people that are 150 years old." You got a system that's obviously broken.
Yeah,
fix it. If you got 150, if you got people in your system that are older than the country, there's something wrong with your system. So you don't know who you're paying.
Yeah,
right. And it's fraud. It's fraud, and it's
fraud. I could see some banker that he knows this for 150 just. Nobody ever came for this account.
Nobody ever checks it because his whole family is dead.
Yeah. A stack of checks like this.
Dude, shit gets weird, man. But the whole Doge thing, you know what, the Doge thing, they're trying to clean up a system that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why would anybody have a problem with that? Why would anybody have a problem with that?
Don't. I know he was going after the IRS people, and I'm all for it.
Oh yeah,
they fired like 7,500 people. That means your tax return might take a little low. But how much people do you need? It's a computer now. You send it, blah blah blah, blah blah.
But Rob, here's the thing. Remember when Biden hired all those people a couple of years ago?
80,000.
If these are the people that Elon Musk is firing, is he really doing a bad job?
No. And a lot of people were the people that were on probation anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're complaining, oh, they only found 1 million here, 1 million there. But when you find 1 million here, 10 million here, 5 million there, and you times that by like 100, 150, you get into the billions.
I think they're already into the billions.
Oh, yeah. They're into the billions.
And just to be clear, if anybody's watching and doesn't get it, Musk isn't firing anybody. He's reporting back to Trump, okay, who is the president. And saying, hey, we got this has happened, this is going on.
Only department heads can fire, and the courts have said that. The courts, in the first lawsuit against Doge, they tried to say that Musk was firing people. And the judge said, you showed absolutely no evidence of this.
Because it's not happening.
None.
He has no power to do that.
No, department heads do. He can make the recommendation. Trump can tell the department heads, hey, according to Musk's recommendation, I think we should fire these people.
Well, and people forget too that Trump as the title of president means you're the CEO of the federal government.
Yeah.
He could fire some little janitor that's a federal worker if he wants to.
People don't. And what did you see what the latest ruling said that he could fire that special counsel? The court said no, he couldn't. With a temporary restraining order. Then once it became a preliminary injunction, that's when you can appeal. And the D.C. Circuit, which is no friend of Trump, unanimously said you can fire this guy. Why?
Yeah.
Because of Article 2 constitutional authority.
Right. I mean, they've been trying to strip him of any power immediately when he took office. All right, to try to stop or slow down things that he wants to do. Now, thank God. I mean, it hasn't really worked. I mean, there's been some jam ups in court, and there still are. But for the most part, they've had winning court cases with this. And I have never seen in my life, and I think you guys would agree, somebody come out of the gate so quick as president and do things. I think he's done more in 2 months than some people have done in the whole administration.
Here's the thing with Trump. He came in saying he was going to do this, he was going to do that. He came in and one of the first things he did was he went after congestion pricing. He started Doge. Like, whether you love the guy, whether you hate the guy, you got to give it up to him that whatever
he keeps his campaign promises.
He's doing it. And you know what I really want to see when his term is done? I want to see the percentage of the campaign promises that he actually lived up to. I think it's going to be a really high percentage.
It was last time.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to remember because you had COVID at the end of all that.
Yeah.
But if you go back to 2018, 2019, even when he was being hit from all sides with impeachments and all kinds of bullshit, okay, he was still keeping his promises. Promises made, promises kept, he was saying. That was the slogan. And I think people realize that, and I think that's why he was reelected. Okay. But I had this conversation with somebody on Facebook earlier today. Basically, they said that you needed to have Biden be president just to see what the hell is really going on. Okay? Now, I agree with that. And maybe in 2021, I wouldn't have agreed with it because I was so angry that the election was stolen and all that shit. Okay. But at the same time, what you saw was such a disaster as an administration that nobody could deny it. Anybody with a sane mind could deny it. So Trump, it was so easy for him to come back because of what was shown to the American people.
And also who Trump was running against.
Well, look what Trump got a historic amount of the black vote, and black voters said, we want money in our pockets like when Trump was in office the first time.
Right.
And you look back, before COVID, the economy was booming.
2019 was one of the best economies we ever had.
You know what's the other thing? There were women that voted for him. A lot of women voted for him. And that was the thing. You know what? And everybody said, "Oh, people that are Trumpster or idiot." You know what is the thing is, people want law and order. People do want law and order. People also want people to take up the homeless thing. So you got to find a way to have a happy medium. You got to give some money to make money. You got to waste money, but you also got to give money because the way that technology is moving, I hate to say that, we almost got to go into some kind of way of socialism or give people some kind of job because technology is getting too better. Like probably like another 10 years, you won't need train conductor, you won't need stuff. You won't need
relax.
I mean, you won't need pads like with guys typing it.
But with everything, you just have to advance with the technology.
Yeah, that's what I'm not saying that now because even look at New Jersey. I think the PATH train, they have a conductor sometimes. Sometimes they don't have a conductor.
I think the L train doesn't have a conductor either.
Yeah,
sometimes
it does, right? Or does?
Yeah, it does. It does.
It does. I remember they were going to go no conductors at one point. I don't know.
Nah, that's not.
I always felt that was wrong. You need somebody there.
You know what they did? It does run by stuff. They got somebody in the middle, like that pulls the train and makes sure to open the door. But the train drives himself now.
Well, they were talking, but they have that. But they were talking about having nobody on the train. So
well, you gotta have somebody.
Yeah, I agree, especially these days.
Oof.
Yeah,
somebody got pushed in front of the train at Bleecker Street this week too.
Oh yeah,
the 6 line. Okay, I mean it's every day it's something, man. And you probably don't even hear about half of it.
How about that bouncer?
The subways are safe. The subways are safe.
No, but you see that bouncer that got killed in Tom and Jerry? The guy came back and fucking shot him, man. Shot him twice.
Yep.
I heard about it.
It's like the Wild West out there now.
But you know
Because
what? As bad as, you know what? As bad as it is, New York is still the safest city, believe it or not.
I believe
8 million people.
Well, that's how far we've come. Okay,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it's when you do per capita, sure, we're safe. But it's like, I mean, we're not Chicago.
Oh no.
But
no, we're definitely not Chicago. Chicago is just going through battles.
well, they're an example of you get the government you vote for.
Yeah.
You know
who actually said that originally?
Who?
President Garfield.
Really?
Wait, it was shit. It was either Garfield or Grover Cleveland. One of them said
that sounds like Grover Cleveland a little bit.
Grover Cleveland, and interestingly, he's the only other president that had 2 terms not
Consecutive.
Yeah. If it was Garfield, he's the one that got shot.
Yeah.
He got assassinated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but you know what?
You do get the government you deserve, and as far as local New York City politics go, we were talking about this a little off camera before, but I don't know. I kind of think that at this day and age, right now, 2025, that we're at a better position now than we've been in 30 years to go red in New York City. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But I think
you got to remember, New York City is because of the districting, and Democrats are smart the way they have the districting done.
Yeah.
Most of Brooklyn is going to vote blue, and Manhattan below like 59th Street, not 59th, but like below 110th.
I was going to say at least 96.
Yeah, 96. They're going to vote blue. They're going to vote no matter what.
Yeah.
Even though people in their neighborhoods are starting to see, like the Upper West Side, they're starting to see the violence, but they don't care. They don't care. Their thing is,
and if you look at the last Trump election, like I said, the Bronx and Brooklyn, he got 23% of the vote, which I'm in the Bronx. That's huge.
Because all of the Biden policies, they don't affect the Upper West Side. They affect the hood.
Also, I think one thing that really helped Trump was he campaigned in the Bronx. Like he came up. You guys were there. He came up here.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yo, this guy's running for president. Like he could have did Madison Square Garden, which he did, but came to the block. And
let me ask you guys something. No, I'm going to cut you off, but I think this is an important question. Eric, you talking about people below the 96th Street all voting blue no matter what, okay?
Yeah.
Now, I think within those people, there might be people that are going to vote red but won't say anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like the Lower East Side.
Their friends.
Yeah.
As black guys, and for Trump.
You're black, Eric.
Okay.
My card has been passed.
All right. But I got to go here. As black guys, I mean, how much pushback do you get for voicing your opinion?
Oh.
Shit.
I've been told.
I can comment on this after you're done too. Go ahead.
I've been told I'm brainwashed. I've been told I don't know what it's like to be black, and I'm like, excuse me, I grew up in the projects and poor. What do you mean I don't know what it's like to be black? Well, you're not like the average black person. Oh, really?
What is that?
I go, what is the average black person? What am I supposed to be? Yeah, exactly. Am I supposed to eat chicken, wear baggy pants, and have a criminal record? Does that make me black?
I don't have a criminal record.
And you can also swim.
No, what do you think?
Yo, see, and Eric doesn't see half the shit I see.
Are you sure?
So, like, I was told, oh, we're not marching, we're not doing this. And I'm like, listen, I don't think you should be marching either. It's just like, we're like, it's in the black community, especially in the past 60 years, there's this underlying thing that if you're black, you have to vote Democrat. You have to do this. You have to do this. And then, like, Eric and I really don't subscribe to a lot of that. Like, listen, we're not Christian. Like, we're not this, like, monolith that people think we are. And the thing with the Democrats is black men are walking away from the party.
Well, I always say this to people: show me the book that says this is how a black person is supposed to be. Show me the manual.
Yeah.
Show me the manual.
I'll look for it.
Yeah, because there is none. You can be whoever you want to be.
I'm going to give my 2 cents here for a second because I have an interesting perspective. My wife is black, okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys know Sandy. And she also is Haitian, so that's a little different spin on things, okay? Yeah. And basically, I can speak for her, is she has the same views as me, but guess what? It ain't because of me.
Right.
Okay. Now she gets all kinds of fucking bullshit from family and friends, and they say, "Oh, that's just because you're married to a white guy." Now, you know, I've heard this so much that it just rolls off me because it's so stupid. I used to be like, I'm gonna freaking tell this person off, but I just let it go.
Well, that is a classic example of what I call, unconscious racism. You're saying that, oh, you just don't know any better,
right?
She's only like that because of this, and that. You don't know.
Like,
you're not smart enough to understand.
And her friends will say, well, she'll ask them, she'll confront them, and she'll say, why do you say that about Trump? Well, he's racist. Okay, well, tell me how he's racist. They never can. Oh, he's racist. And then when it gets around to bringing me up, the thing is like, their idea of an average typical white guy.
Yeah.
And maybe I need the manual too for what that is, Eric. Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that is. All right. But the average typical white guy is racist, homophobic, xenophobic, all these isms.
Oh, wait, you go to the gym too, because that's racist.
Yeah, I work out 12 ounces at a time. That's how much. Okay. But I mean, I've lived my life the way I want to live my life. I never looked at it like, okay, I have to be this stereotypical white guy because I'm white. Whatever that means. I don't even know what that means. Because if you look at the history of white people, okay, we did some fucked up shit. Okay, I know that.
Yeah.
But if you look at like my background, which is like Italian and Irish background, okay, we were treated like fucking shit.
Yeah.
All right. Now I don't know that firsthand, but I know from family members that were older that explained things, how there was racism in this country against.
Oh
them.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's never allowed to be discussed. Because it's like
there was racism against the Italian, racism against there was always racism. Everybody hated each other at one point.
Whoever's on top will shit on the guy below him. It just always happens.
If you look at it this way, if you just talk about the history of New York City, when the Irish came in, like, forget it.
Oh yeah.
And then with the Italians, my understanding is, according to Europeans, you're the black people of white people.
Well, here's the thing. They were never considered white.
Yeah.
Not until after World War II. When there was no category for Italian people until after the war, when they proved themselves as willing to fight for this country. Okay.
Yeah.
You were a dirty, greasy wop.
Yeah.
Okay. And the fact that you were Catholic was a problem. And that was an issue with the Irish when they came. Okay. They called them papists, and who's your loyalty to, the country or to the Pope? That was a problem with Kennedy when he ran for office in 1960, which ain't that long ago. They were saying, who are you going to be loyal to, the country or to the Pope?
I remember
he had to actually address that.
Yeah.
So
this country is touted as a Christian country, but it's really not based on some of the practices that's going on. But yeah, this is a Protestant country.
Protestant.
Yeah. And I don't think
it's become more Catholic.
And we're talking 2025. I still don't think there'll be a Catholic president.
Well, Biden was.
Well, all right,
but only in name, not in practice.
Yeah. Yeah, not in practice.
Was it Kennedy?
Kennedy too.
Yeah, Kennedy was.
Look what happened to him. So
see what happens when you don't pay those tithes.
Right. The Pope whacked him. That's what happened.
That's what it was.
No, but anyway, let's get back to Doge a little bit here. Okay, we're getting off topic. Musk now is going after what was it? Was it the air traffic controllers?
Mm-hmm.
He was looking at the FCC and the way the FAA and the way that has been run. And the first thing they discovered is that even a few years ago, their policy, and it was actually written this way, is that there are too many whites as air traffic controllers, and we need to diversify that. So their policy was we're going to hire more minorities. Now, do you think? I mean, I have no problem with a minority being an air traffic controller.
No, you know what the problem is? It should be the best person for the job and can do the fucking job. That's the bottom line.
Also, what I was led to believe that they couldn't hire more, people until they filled the diversity quota. So if you needed 20 black people, for example, you couldn't hire a qualified white person because you still had to fill that quota of 20
white people.
Right. So
does this play a part? And remember a couple of years ago when all those flights were getting canceled because there was no FAA agents?
I don't know.
And what about these crashes of late?
And there's been a lot of them. There's been a lot of.
But remember, like a lot of those guys that came in were retiring, and they weren't filling the vacancies left by the people that retired. So a lot of flights was getting canceled.
Right.
And then
they couldn't fly safely, basically, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's the same now. I mean, you look at what happened at Reagan National Airport in DC with that Delta flight that hit the Black Hawk helicopter.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first thing they said that first night was that the air traffic controllers were doing the job of two people.
Yeah.
All right. You know, in that airport, I don't think I've ever flown out of there. I've come through Dulles, but I've never come through Reagan. But I know Reagan is actually preferred. The reason why Reagan is used so much is it's preferred by Congress and all the politicians. Okay.
Yeah.
That they go in and out of there constantly. They don't like to go to Dulles. I think Dulles is a little further away. So, you know, it's kind of like the difference, I guess, between LaGuardia to the city and JFK to the city, something like that.
You want to hear something crazy? The Black Hawk got almost like, you know, when you get a brand new car now, when you get too close to something, it beeps. This helicopter got about the same thing. So I'm surprised that they didn't send a warning to them, or I don't know.
But that jet's going so fast. By the time it got the warning,
it was too late.
Pull up.
Yeah.
By the time you do it, you're on top of the helicopter.
Yeah.
If you look at that thing, it was like it's coming. You see, you already like, what the fuck, man?
That was insane. That was insane. I was following that all night. I was on a night shift working that night, and I was following it all night. And they were coming out with this and that, all these updates, and it was like, holy shit. I mean, but you know, again, if they can't hire people because they don't have the diversity hires that they need, okay, that's a big problem, especially for that agency. Come on, I mean, if you fuck with the airline industry, you destroy the economy of this country. If you make it that people are afraid to fly, that's bad. Okay.
Dude, let me tell you, Cassandra just went to California and she was very afraid to fly. She said, I've never been so nervous. And she said, I've never been nervous. I take some pills and I go and see. But with these little accidents that happen and going all the way to California, she felt not safe. And do you see that other some freaking woman that died on a plane and they put her next to the couple because the flight was booked? So this woman died on the plane, so they had to sit her down and cover it. The couple is complaining that, I think, where else can you put the person like this?
You have to put it in the back where the flight attendants sit or something like.
You know what the problem is? That there was a booked flight and they
put them in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Standing up.
Don't flush.
Yeah, look that story up. It's crazy.
Put them in a little kitchen where the flight attendants buckle up at the plane, okay, and make them sit in a regular seat. You know, what's the difference?
I don't know, but it was a crazy thing. You know, this guy midair and they couldn't. It was a crazy thing that just happened. You look that up and you'll be like, wow. But that happened all the time. Like when Sean that went to his son where Sean, John Casey partner. Well, he went to the Philippines. He had a massive heart attack on the fucking plane. And they couldn't land. You know, he was sitting next to his wife. They just covered him up.
I remember when that happened. Yeah.
That's the way it is, man. They just covered him up.
They're going to do it. You can't turn around and go home. You know, you got to keep going. Not on something like that. Yeah,
that was like halfway to the Philippines where he didn't feel good and boom.
You're like, I'll have his snacks.
He was in first class. You're like, can I sit here? You know,
he's not gonna get
it. Savage.
Oh, bloody.
But you know what the thing is? You know what the thing is with the whole like you know that people are bugging out because look at the stock market. That shit is like dropped.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as people say.
It's not that bad.
No.
If it dropped 20,000 points, then you're fucked.
Yeah, I have mutual fund stocks that are actually doing really good. So it's just knowing where to invest.
Yeah. I mean, I have a guy that handles my pension and all that. And we talk on a monthly basis, pretty much. He's very good like that. And you know, he said, you know, you're in it for the long term. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what you do. I tell people don't look at it every day.
If you're a day trader,
you'll drive yourself crazy. You look at it every day.
Yeah,
it's going to go up. It's going to go down. I mean, now with Doge, all this money that they're saving, they're talking about possibly returning it to us.
Yeah.
How far has that gone? Because I haven't heard anything in a couple of weeks about that.
Well, it would. I think it would have to be approved by Congress.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So
they can't decide what color the sky is. How are they going to do that?
That's why they have an approval rating of 29%.
If that, and that's generous, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I actually want to talk about? How about that no tax on tips or overtime?
And the Democrats voted against it.
Every single one voted against it.
Yeah. You know what the problem is? We live in New York. You know what?
It wasn't. What'd you say, Rob? I'm sorry.
I said we live in New York, so I think it's going to be more of a federal thing. But I think state taxes, they're still going to take some money. But federal taxes, I think you don't get any money take out of the federal tax. I think that's the way it's going to work.
Oh yeah.
Well, if Trump has his way, he would abolish income tax.
Okay. Yeah, but he could only do that on the federal level. He couldn't do it on the state.
No, he can't do it. Well, look, I mean, that would just go back to what it was like before pre-1914. Okay. Pre-1914, you had state taxes, you had sales tax, you had other taxes, things you bought, or within the state, maybe property taxes. I think they had things like that. Okay, but there was no federal income tax.
No.
And actually,
if
you read about the federal income tax, real quick, the history of it, it was only meant when it was passed as a law. Okay, it was only meant for like the top 1% to pay. That's it. The richest of the rich were going to pay this.
Yeah, you know how government is. They never get enough.
And within, I swear to God, it passed in 1914. I think within 10 years, everybody was paying it.
And then remember, it was only in times of war before that. Because
I don't know if they had some kind of tax if there was a war.
Yeah, I think it was during the Civil War that there was a tax because they needed revenue for fighting.
Well, of course, that makes sense. And maybe the only war that was before 1914. The most recent one was the Spanish-American War. I'm not sure if they took from people before that, to fight that. I don't think so. I've never heard that it's possible, but that I can live with that if that's the case.
Yeah.
But the income tax has always kind of been, in my line of thinking, not constitutional. What do you think? What do you guys think? I mean, it seems like it's not.
It all depends.
Because things needs to get paid. Infrastructure.
If Congress writes the law, then it's constitutional.
Has it ever been challenged? Has it ever been challenged, like up to the Supreme Court level? Maybe early on.
income tax has been challenged because you could remember when you start a job, right? You don't fill out a form for Social Security because it's a law that's automatically taken out. You decide to pay for your income tax. Like that's why they have you sit down and they have you fill out that form because you're agreeing to pay the IRS.
But you have to pay the IRS, so there's a punishment.
Yeah.
And the IRS is an agency like Doge.
Yes, it is. It's
yes,
a third party. It's
very similar. There you go.
Because remember, if you ever have problems with the income tax, it's the IRS that you have problems with. It never says the federal government.
Right.
So they're a third party, and they can pretty much run roughshod based on the laws that's enacted. But
they can have their own hearings and take your money.
Yep, they could take your property, which is technically against the Constitution.
Now that part is like without due process. Having a hearing. See, due process. It doesn't always have to be a court. As long as you get a government hearing, that's due process.
So they'll call an audit due process. That's how they get around it.
That's how to.
Yeah. I mean, I think with Doge going on and all the government waste that they're finding, I think they should return it to us. That's all money. Okay.
They're going to give it to Ukraine.
Well,
sorry.
That's a good segue. We're going to talk about Ukraine in a second, but I think with Doge, with the money, I think they should give it back to us. I think if any of these congressmen on both sides, Senate and the House, if they have any sense, they're going to realize that the American people need this. I'm just a little concerned. I don't know what it would do to the economy if you pump in all that money back into it. What do you guys think economically? What would happen?
Oh, I think
people will go in debt.
It's basically like a stimulus check.
Yeah.
But it's a stimulus check that doesn't put the country in debt. Now, what they should do is not tax it. They should make it non-taxable. Because it was the what?
Have they said they're going to tax it or not tax it?
I don't know. But the government's always going to tax everything.
If it's tax-free and going forward, there's no income tax. There'll be a lot more money pumped into the economy, which the economy is automatically going to get a boost. But people are going to do stupid things with it, but that's on them.
That's okay.
It'll be like the Dave Chappelle skit.
So you're talking
in the country, and there'll be like a million new record labels. But
you're talking like $1 trillion. Let's not say $1 trillion. Let's say $100 billion being pumped into the economy
at one time.
That's going to be a boom across the board.
You know what the problem is? People don't think like that. Like especially the people. You know what? If you gave it, this is my theory. I always had a theory. I always told people, you could give every American $1 million every year they can put in, and then some of them will still go in debt. And more debt than they ever did. Because
if you did that, there would be people that after a couple of years be like, "Oh, what's $1 million? I'll spend $5 million and just wait for the next check."
What's going to happen, Bob? What's going to happen, Bob, is if people going in debt, let's say you're $3 million in debt, we'll be living in Squid Games.
All right. So with that, let's segue. Eric brought up Ukraine real quick, and let's hope that money doesn't go anywhere near Ukraine. Okay.
Listen, you guys are lucky I'm not president because day one, I'm shutting that pipeline off. You're not getting another dime out of us.
Right. I agree. I mean, they've had enough. They can't account for most of it. Okay.
And
you know they're not getting money, right? They're just getting weapons that we don't.
I understand that.
They're getting weapons.
I understand that. That's the argument for people to try to say we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Okay. The people say, "Oh, they're not getting money; they're getting weapons." He said that he can't account for it all. Okay. Now that's different than cash or weapons or whatever. It's like, well, what do you mean? Where is it?
Yeah.
And they did get some money too. Okay.
Of course. They got money.
They were giving money.
You know what money they got? When Pelosi went out there to go, and in a briefcase and brought it back here. And the cash they got. there were presidents and there were politicians going there. This is like a horrible one. You got these politicians going there. You think you're gonna risk their life?
And what I could never forget, I'll never forget that when she went there, and the others went there. Okay, I think even some Republicans went there too. Okay, no flak jacket, no helmet, no nothing.
That lets you know what
they're walking around like they're on vacation in the Ukraine, and meanwhile Russian missiles are falling, bombs are falling, okay, and they're safe. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Well, they announced that they were going to be there, and Putin was not going to attack an area where acting congressman
optically it just looked
because they're idiots.
They look bad.
Exactly, they are idiots.
But you got to understand the whole thing with Ukraine, why this war's been going on so long, is because, or at least what I believe it was a testing ground for new weapons. All these countries are, hey, it's a real war. Let's test drone technology. Everybody was sending drones.
We've done that. We've done that as a country. I think first Iraq war was that.
Well, Putin was pissed during the Iraq war because that's when we battle tested the M1 tank.
Yep.
Contractors are making money, which makes politicians happy. There's all these contracts going on. That's why Biden could have given Ukraine tanks, jets, and everything, offensive weapons on day one.
Yeah.
On day one. Now, couldn't they win? No. They don't have enough manpower. But it might have caused them not to lose the territory that they lost. And now that puts them in a better position. That would have put them in a better to negotiate. Yeah.
Now, one thing I wanted to bring up, and you kind of just was starting me here with that comment, is the fact that they can't win. Okay.
Yeah, they can't win.
Now, I think I was watching a show recently, and I kind of knew this, but it went into a little more detail than I'd ever heard. They were talking about the way Russians look at war. Okay. And it's something that we as Americans and in the West don't understand.
Exactly.
All right. The Russians, I'll give you an example. In World War II, when they were fighting the Nazis, they would never fall back on a position if they were overrun or losing. They would never fall back on a position unless they were 60% casualties. So if you think about that, you have 100 men, 60 of them have to die before you're even talking about retreating in any way. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you a real world, because I was on the border during the Cold War,
right?
And there was a scenario called Fulda Gap scenario. That's where the Russians would come down through Fulda Gap, a big valley, and take over Germany.
Yeah.
And what they would do is they would just send wave upon wave upon wave, and their goal was to just
overwhelm
beat you down to the point where your defense is so low. Then they send in their advanced armor, advanced weapons, and that's when they breach. And that's what's happening in Ukraine now. They're sending in cars. They're sending troops in cars. They're sending untrained conscripts from North Korea because they don't care about them. They're just whittling down Ukraine's defense.
So you just cannon.
And they're sending convicts. Okay, and they don't give a shit about them either.
No.
Okay? So the what I'm trying to say is, and I know you'll agree, is the Russians don't. Their idea of fighting is not our idea of fighting.
No.
We try to have as few casualties as possible. They don't care. They don't look at it like that. They don't look at it as that amount of casualties is any problem.
No.
If you had 60% casualties in an American,
there were people screaming to end the war.
There would be people screaming to end the war that second. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just you can't. They don't stand for it. So that's something that we have to understand in the West, which is what, and who understands it is Trump.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he realizes the Russians are not going to stop.
No.
Okay. No. There has to be a peace treaty, and Zelensky, who talk about him for a second. I mean, just antics last week. Okay. Coming here. And I watched it live as it happened. Okay, they broke in. They had the press conference. I watched it from the beginning until it deteriorated into that shouting match.
Now, it went on 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah. And it was totally live. You've never seen something like that before in history, I don't think.
No, nobody ever done that. Everybody had a chance to bring cameras in, but he's the first one that actually brought cameras in. And you know what?
Here's my thing, guys. If I'm asking you for money, right? Wouldn't I be as calm and polite as possible? Like, hey, Rock and Mike, I need 100,000. Hey, buddy, how you doing? How's the family? Instead of coming up on you and be like, yo, son, run them pockets.
No,
that's what he was like.
Zelensky's question about security assurances was a valid one, but he was told before he got there, this isn't about security, this is about the minerals.
Well, before he got there, he spent about 45 minutes with the Democrats.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, which I don't know if Trump knew that ahead of time.
That might have juiced him up, maybe.
I think they told him, look, don't accept this deal and publicly humiliate Trump and Vance on TV. Okay, it had to be planned. Okay, and he met the Democrats before that. Now it didn't work. Okay, Trump was not humiliated. Trump was not. I mean, they tried to run with that for a day.
Yeah,
it didn't work.
Especially when Europe said, "Oh, we need Trump."
Well, and also Zelensky, being the dick that he is, he called Vance a bitch in Ukrainian under his breath, and it was caught. Did you guys know that?
No.
Yeah. They listened to the mic after the fact, and when Vance was talking about how he knows that Zelensky cannot get men to fight.
Yeah.
There's a manpower shortage. In the back and forth, there was, I don't know what the word is, but the Ukrainian word for like you bitch, he used that against Vance right there under his breath, and it was caught. So I mean, obviously that wasn't known till later, and Vance didn't know what the hell he said. Okay, but still, I mean, there was no reason for that, and it just showed that he's really a puppet. Okay.
He's an amateur.
Yeah.
You know
what his job was before he was
he was a comedian.
He was a comedian.
He was like you ever see the shit he did in drag?
Oh yeah.
Look, he has no political experience. Look, if you're going to ask a question like that, you wait till you're off camera.
Yeah.
All right. 2, wear a suit. If you want to be a
okay,
I get it. I get it. You're a wartime president. But if you're trying to negotiate peace, transition over to a diplomat, right? Wear a suit.
And actually do your research on who you're meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
You are meeting the president of the United States. Now, Bill Clinton, maybe George Bush, definitely Obama, probably wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
Okay. Trump is a guy. I mean, I don't have my Art of the Deal book handy, but I could probably find the page where he says, when you show up to negotiate, you wear a suit, you look a certain way. It's about appearances. You're showing up at the highest levels of negotiating in the world.
Exactly.
Okay. I wouldn't care if he was dressed like that and he came correct. Okay. But he did not come correct. And then he was also dressed like whatever. Okay, a black shirt, fucking fascist. Okay, but I mean, I just think that the guy's an amateur, and he's running this country, and all he really wants is the money. He has
he has such a hatred toward Putin, and it showed. Did you watch the Fox interview? He did an interview on Fox after that.
Yeah.
And all he kept saying was, we need the U.S.'s assistance. We want them to take our side. Trump saying, I don't want to take sides.
So you know what? You never take sides in the war. The only thing you do is provide weapons. You give them weapons, and that's it. You can't take a side. You can't. Once you start a side, you get to a whole. He will
run this country into the ground.
We should have never got involved with the fucking Middle East, and now we're in a shitstorm. That's
a whole other thing. Yeah, I mean,
it's almost the same thing. Now we're gonna get involved with the fucking Ukraine and Russia. You know what? That's the problem. We should have never become the police of the world. We should fucking take all that shit out and tell everybody good luck and stay here and protect our asses. That's what it should really be.
Well,
because you know what? I'm going to acknowledge, and this is going to go back to me, 9/11. You know what happened when the fucking Pentagon gets hit by a fucking plane? You know what that means? You're not protecting none of us. When the World Trade Center and the fucking Pentagon get hit, which is supposed to be the symbol of security and that shit get hit, you know what? None of us are protected. We need to fucking get out of all this fucking shit show with all these other people, all these other countries, and stay here. Worry about us. Worry about our ass.
We patrol everybody else's border except for our own.
Let's just protect our shit, protect our borders, protect our water. Because you know what? When that guy told Trump, you know, you're very safe because you got this water in front of you. You know what? Yes. Jets can fly from over there here, bomb and hit us real quick.
What he said, Rob, what he said was it wasn't just you're protected by two oceans. He then went on to say, but you will be feeling the pain soon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was not good. That was very out of turn. But I understand what he mean. But the problem is, how many times we caught fucking Russian submarine not too far from here? Shit can hit the fan real quick. People don't get it. So whatever he say, it's like, yo, shut the fuck up, dude.
It could be a weather balloon.
Yeah.
I believe.
You know, but you know what? Because you know what 9/11 happened. We were so fucking cocky, and Clinton cut a bunch of fucking government agency and stuff. Everybody's worried about, oh, you're cutting this and that. You gotta fucking protect the fucking government. You need those government agencies. You need these people to protect us, and you need to protect the border. And you can't fucking go and fight a war for everybody else. We're suffering. We got a fucking problem with homeless people. We got a fucking problem with people going hungry. The fucking price of food is going up.
Yeah,
dude, something got to break the bubble. If we kept
to ourselves, pretty much after the War of 1812, for the most part during the 1800s, the United States was isolationist.
Yeah.
So in doing that, you really allowed the country to expand. Yeah. You know, there was a civil war, which was a civil war. It wasn't an international war. And then the United States really just built itself up. Yeah. To the point where you have like the revolutionary,
was it Industrial Revolution?
Industrial Revolution. So you have that, and like Rob is 100% right. Like if the United States were to be like, listen, guys, we're pulling back. Like if you want to say you're the best country in the world, you got to show and prove. And the United States isn't showing and proving. Like the homeless rate is insane.
Insane.
The fact that there's people that are literally homeless that have no homes is deplorable. Like the fact that people are seeing each other in Chicago every weekend is insane. Dude, how Michigan have water?
Now check this out. You know how bad it is? There's people that are making 100,000. They're still homeless. That's how bad shit is.
Yeah.
Can't afford it.
Because they can't, it's out of control. It's like
if you're making $75,000 a year in New York City,
you're a bum.
You're poor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, just a little historical perspective knowledge. What you were talking about, the War of 1812. All right. The hero of the War of 1812 was Andrew Jackson, who went on to become president.
Yeah.
What he did by the 1840s.
He kept killing people because he never got the memo.
Not when New Orleans went on the days afterwards. That's right. But when he was president, maybe 20 years later, okay, he got rid of the second Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Right. Now, in that time, we became more isolationist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We did have a civil war, like you say, but that was a civil war.
Yeah.
By the time the turn of the century, there was a push to become more globalist. And in that time, by 1914, you had three things. You had three things.
The Federal Reserve.
You had the Federal Reserve, income tax, and the beginning of World War I.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've never looked back, and we've been an international force since that time.
Yeah.
But things happen incrementally. It sounds like a lot of years, but things go slow.
Yeah.
Collapse of the Soviet Union made us the only superpower on the block.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of inherited this. Well, we didn't inherit it. We kind of took on this position of being a world policeman. Okay.
Now, we don't have to be isolationist.
No.
But if it's in Europe's backyard, Europe should handle
that.
Well, yeah,
let's go back to Clinton. Clinton shouldn't have had to gather a coalition of the willing.
Yeah.
Right.
That word was his word. Yep. That was his expression. Yeah.
You shouldn't have had to do that. It was in Europe's backyard.
Yeah.
But they said, Slobodan Milosevic, who cares? Whatever. And it's the same thing with Ukraine. That's in their backyard.
Well, Clinton also okay, when he first got into office, one thing that he handled was the denuclearization of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
In the wake of the collapse of the Soviet Union, Ukraine had nuclear weapons, and it was like, all right, well, what are we going to do with them? They agreed to give them to Russia in exchange for NATO never expanding any further. Okay.
Yeah.
And Clinton gave the Russians that promise and said, nah, NATO is not going to expand any more east than what it is. Well, in a short time, they got Estonia, they got Lithuania, they got some of those other countries. And now it's what? Is it Sweden and Finland are in it now, I think?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got all of Scandinavia, which is right on Russia's back door. Ukraine is right on their back door, even closer.
Yeah.
And they've always treated Ukraine as this kind of,
it's a Baltic state.
Like a no man's land.
Europeans don't like the Eastern Bloc nations. They just don't. When I was living there, it was the same thing. They don't. That's why Sweden and Finland got into NATO like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they're more Western.
And Ukraine has been begging forever.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they're like, yeah, we'll think about it. Yeah. It's like a parrot. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, one
do your homework.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the thing with that whole thing with the European, you know what, everybody, those countries are kind of isolated. They deal with their own shit. Think about that. They only come when something happen. And you know what? And if we want to do it, there'll be such a backlash. But we should do it. Why should we have every China make every fucking thing for it? They're probably putting spyware in there. They know exactly what we fucking do it. Why can't we? That's where you put those terror attacks and stuff. You know what? Because you want to make people come back here, start putting factories here.
We had to get COVID masks from China. We had to get COVID masks, probably from Temu.
You know what happened? You know what happened if we take all our factory and we stop paying China? Dude, we could become a global power. If everybody start making our shit here instead of giving it to them, you know what? That'd be a big fuck you to them. They'll be like, oh shit, they're making their own things, making their own shirts.
The quality has to be there, and the quality isn't there. Like, I was with my barber yesterday, and he was talking about how he wants to buy an American car. And one thing about us West Indians, we don't buy American cars. No. Like, we really don't. Like me, you know, I have a Japanese car. You know, it's like West Indians in general don't buy American cars because Japanese cars.
But you had a Challenger, knowledge. Don't you have a Challenger?
Fuck no.
I thought you did. I was wrong about that.
He's got the tumbler.
Oh, okay. Oh, man. Why is that? Why don't West Indian men buy American cars?
We don't like American cars. That's our DNA.
What kind of racist shit is
because it's in the West Indian man manual.
It's true. To have that BMW.
We do like Nissans, we do Lexuses. Like a lot of Jamaicans do BMWs because BMWs are really popular. My only issue with BMWs is you got to get your parts from Germany, and that's a pain in the ass.
It's expensive.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because it has to be shipped from Germany. Right. Shipped here. You have to pay the taxes and the tariffs and all of that.
Well, you know what BMW stands for, right?
Black man's wish.
Black man's wish. Yeah.
Black man's wish.
I've heard that. Yeah. Terrible.
That's terrible.
You know,
so I'm going to bring a subject that we have. I used to do it in the freak show, and it's the motherfucker of the month. And man, I have one for you motherfuckers. This fucking Andrew Cuomo, this cocksucker that killed a bunch of grandparents. People couldn't go see their grandparents. We're doing Cobra and all this shit. And I got some idiot yesterday telling me in a bar, but he's the man of the labor. He's going to make deals so we can get. Dude, this fucking guy does not care about you. This guy's a millionaire. This guy's he's fucking terrible. He's trying to run for mayor because you know what? He got ran out. Now let's see. You know, you got all these Me Too shit. Let's see what the Me Too's going to do to them.
They'll be quiet. They'll be quiet.
They'll be quiet.
They ain't going to say shit.
Like I've ever seen.
Remember, people will try to say.
So remember, he ran, like my union, we voted for him. He was like, oh, I'm going to fix the tier system and blah, blah, blah. So because of that, we voted for him. And then he gets in office and then he says, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So you literally took our votes and you ran. You son of a bitch. Yo, I have no time for Andrew Cuomo. But honestly, I don't think he's gonna win. I think Mayor Adams is gonna win.
You know what? The only way that much, you know how that guy can win? He'll have to bring the broken window and start throwing motherfuckers in jail and fire the 2 fucking idiots we got. That fucking one, like the Brandon, but he was an elected official. You can't do nothing with that guy. You know, like you got it's just a fucked up system. And the other problem is that you know what, people are gonna vote for it because it's recognition. But if I was fucking Adam, I will bring back his father used to go, "Don't bo homo," when he was running against Ed Koch, and that was his fucking slogan.
I remember that. Yep.
And a lot of people remember that slogan. You know,
I can remember driving down Queens Boulevard when I was about 9 years old, and that sign was on street lights. They made these flyers. Vote for Cuomo, not the homo. And I remember asking my dad, like, "What the fuck does that mean?" You know? Well, when you're older, I'll tell you, son. You know.
Well, people forget that it was bipartisan agreement to get rid of Cuomo. It wasn't partisan. It wasn't like like with Trump or whatever. And people will say, "Oh, well, if we can elect a rapist," referring to Trump, which we know
he's not a rapist.
He's not a rapist. Whatever. It was basically the case was a he said, she said.
Yeah.
Where you have Cuomo, where they actually have audio and tapes of him doing this crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they'll go, "Oh, well, it's different, whatever." Come on.
How about the book? His book that he wrote, that he didn't write, that he got his staff write.
Yeah.
Money to.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about the fact that he lied on the federal document to protect his political career?
Yes. And the nursing homes.
The nursing home. Now, granted,
he
he has qualified immunity for that. You can't do anything legally.
But we know what happened.
Yeah, but we know what happened.
Yeah.
If people really want to get rid of immunity for politicians, well, then we could throw Cuomo in jail.
And one other thing too, with what that he did besides the nursing homes, is when Trump had sent that hospital ship, and then the army had reconfigured the Jacob Javits Center to make it like a triage. Okay, that they didn't use it, and also Red Hook. There was another place set up in Red Hook, and they wouldn't use those facilities because Trump was involved in setting it up.
And he also sent the boat. Remember they had the boat.
Yeah.
So they could put like 1,000.
That's what he was saying. Yeah.
And none of these things were used because these people got an ego, man. These people got a heart on for each other. It's fucking.
They'd rather stick COVID victims in nursing homes and kill people.
Yeah,
and use hospitals.
Like that, though, if you should really just put politics aside and just say, "Listen, this is for the good of the people."
Let's put politics aside.
They can't.
All you got to do is
everything is political.
Look what they did with the cancer kit. They can't put politics aside. You can't look. You don't have to clap for Trump. Clap for the kid. Is it that freaking hard?
Yeah.
No, I thought that was actually heartwarming. He let that kid be like a security guard, right?
He was an honorary Secret Service agent.
He made him a Secret Service agent right there.
And how many news network covered that? They don't want to give that poor guy any credit for anything. I thought
the most disgusting thing was the reaction. The reaction the Democrats were making when you were watching it was disgusting.
Yeah.
They couldn't chill.
That kid is going to grow up. That kid may become president.
If he grows up.
If he grows up, he got a bad disease, man.
I
hate to say that. When I saw that kid, I thought it was Gary Coleman, to tell you the truth.
What you talking about, Willis?
But he has 909 police agencies have made him an honorary officer.
Yeah, that's the way you do it.
Winning of hearts and minds.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I mean, knowledge. Like you say, politics aside, but they can't.
Was black, right? The kid was black.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter anymore because that used to be like an untouchable thing. Like, because he's black, it doesn't matter anymore. Now you got black people calling other black people white supremacists. So
you know what they're gonna call that poor kid now? He's probably part of Trump's youth.
They'll call him an uncle. Yeah, they'll call him Uncle Tom. Yeah.
Trump's youth.
Trump youth, yeah, Hitler youth. Yep.
Dude, it just shows that even if something is good for you, they won't vote for it or applaud for it or go with it if it has Trump associated with it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The best were the memes the next day, okay? Because Nancy Pelosi looked lumped up as usual, and everybody was sitting like a bottle in front of her. You know,
she looked like she was taking sips out of something during
she
kept putting that thing up to her mouth, and she was like grinning. I'm like, "What are you drinking?"
Yeah, well, you know, she's into vodka. You know that.
You can't smell vodka,
guys. So another great episode of I Am Right, and we're glad everybody joined us to watch this. We'll be back in about a month for the next episode.
All right, my friends.
What do we say at the end of every show, Rob?
We don't get drunk.
We get lumped up.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Laters.